Hello and welcome. This is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and in this week's unique training we're going to be creating an amazing user-friendly dynamic filters in which you have probably never seen in Excel before. It's going to be one of the best trainings on filters. I can't wait, so let's get started. Alright, thanks so much for joining us today. Today we're going to be creating a really amazing user-friendly filter, dynamic filters using Advanced Filter, using one of the most creative ways to use filters, extremely user-friendly. This can be done in any version of Excel, and it can be sent and used by any type of person regardless of the skill level that they have in Excel. In fact, often we're able to create certain filters as developers and Excel enthusiasts, but what happens when we send that workbook to others and they don't necessarily have that Excel skill level? How do they create the filters? In this week's training, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that so that you can create and send your workbook to any user regardless of their level of skill, and they'll be able to use it right away, creating any kind of type filters, multiple criteria. It's going to be a really great training. We've got so much to get covered, so we're going to get started right away. Just so you know, if you do like these videos, I create them each and every Tuesday, so do make sure you subscribe and click that notifications bell. That's going to help you get alerted right when I create these new videos, so you will not miss an episode. If you want this application, just like every week, I'll include the link in the description below, so make sure you pick it up. It's absolutely free. But if you do want to support this channel and my videos each and every week, I do have a 150 workbook pack, all in a single zip file. Those are my best 150 workbooks I've spent years creating, and it's all for you for just $56. That's the current price on that. It may go up. That's just 37 cents a workbook. So that's going to really help us out. So I do hope you pick that up. Let's get started on this training. I've got so much to cover. So what do I want to do here? Well, basically what I want to do is I want to create a drop-down list of perhaps a filter by, filter all the fields. I've got some data here already set up. So I want to be able to filter based on an ID, a company name, an email, first name, last name, a country, or even total sales are started on. And I want to create multiple filters so that users can simply just click on a filter, edit it, close it out, add a filter. I just want to make it really user friendly. I want to make it kind of like the filters we have on websites when we're booking rooms or something like that, where you could just click and it's really completely simple for a user. That's what I want to get out of here in Excel today. That's what I want to show you, to see how you can create those types of filters. And then regardless of Excel, now we have slices and lots of great things in advanced version of Excel, but what about if you send this to someone who has a Excel version 2007 or 2003? What do we do then? In this training, I'm going to show you a method how you can create almost any version of Excel with some basic VBA and some basic shapes. So it's going to be really great. It can be used on any version of Excel. And also, we have different filter types. Notice that these are all text. This is a number and this is a date. So we're going to be able to do multiple types of filter based on dates or based on text. So it's really great. Going to be a great training. And so I have this data. I've also got some named ranges, and I want to set the filter. I've got some information here. So we have a filter option table. Now, for example, if it's a text type of filter, I want to give the user the ability to says equals text, contains, or does not contain. And then I have some associated filter. These are going to be used for our criteria. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this formula, except we're going to replace the word value with whatever the user has typed in. And if it's a number type filter, for example, if a number type would be this one, like total sales, I want the drop down list to include this so that the user can choose from these options. Is less than, equal to, greater than. I want to give them all those type options. And if it's a date, I want to give them this type of a drop down list, and is before and after, and this type of a filter. So we have three different: text, number, and date. Each one of those comes with its own drop-down list. So we've got a data validation, and also each one of those comes with its own format. So I want to format because the user is going to be using the same cell. So that format's going to be the cell, the general format, which is this A symbol, or at symbol, I should say. And the number filter would have just this type of format, and the date. Now feel free to change these formats as you wish. All you need to change them in here, and it'll change on your own application as well. So the idea is for a user to probably select and let's say here they'll select which field, a drop down list of all the fields. Then what we want to do is like is less than or is greater than here, and then their value is going to go here, and then they're going to click a button and add the filter. So that's what I want to create. We're going to have some information here, and then we're going to have a table down here. That table is going to show all the results of their filter. Well, they'll be able to click on a shape and edit that filter, or they'll be able to click on the X and it'll close it. That's what I'm going to build. I'm going to build it right in front of you. We're going to write every line of code. I just have a little bit of formatting because it's kind of boring to watch me format these cells. Other than that, I've got a few named ranges. Let's just go over just the 4 named ranges. So I've got the customer header. If we tab over here, we're going to see that those customer database, just called customer header. It is all that. It's just the ID all to the started on. Every header, that's going to help us in some of our formulas, because I need to determine what type of field it is. Is it a text? Is it a number? Or is it a date? And then what I have is 3 different named ranges. If we tab over here, all we see we have a date range, but this is just on or before. So this is going to be selection. So for example, when they select a date type field, I want to give them these options. When they select a number type field, I want to give them these options. And when we select a text item, I want to give them these options. So those are just the 4 named ranges that I've created. That's going to help us in a formula, and I've just got a little bit of a jump start on this. Everything else, there's no code in this workbook so far. We're going to write all the code, no macros, nothing here. We're going to write everything in front of you, and hopefully we can get it done in an hour. That's what I'm shooting for. Not sure. Hopefully the formatting helped us out. I always try to get an hour, but let's see how that goes. I really appreciate you sticking with me on these. I love to show you how to build these amazing applications so that you can not only get a freelance job, but create your own applications and sell them. That's exactly what I'm doing in my mentorship program. If you want to take a look at that, www.myexcelmentor.com will show you how you can create your own applications and sell them on the market. So I hope you join us there. All right, so what do I want to do? So I want to create at least a filter here, props in G2. So what I want to say is filter by. So I want to give the user the option to filter by. Now what are we going to create? We're going to create at least 3 fields. So I'm going to color these in white, and those are the entry fields that I want the user to basically enter their fields on, and I'm going to basically put borders around all of these. So I'm going to format those cells. We'll just use a dark blue border, basically a basic color, something like same as our theme here. So we'll put an outline around that. And so I want the user to enter a drop-down list here. Basically is going to be those headers. So what do I want to do there? I want to put let's just take a look at this one here. I'm going to use the customer header. That's what's going to be our drop-down list. So I want them to select between any one of those headers. So we're going to use the data validation for that field. So I'll just go into data validation, and then create a new validate. It's going to be a list type of field. So let's go ahead and put in list, and it's going to be equal customer headers. That's what I want the user to choose from. So that's what I want to customer header here, not headers. That's what I want the user to choose from. So we got to be able to give them the option to choose one of those fields. So once they choose a company name or any one of those fields, I want it, let's increase the font a little bit here, perhaps something like 12 or something, just a little bit bigger. So once they select company name, I want a dynamic drop-down list here. So what is that drop-down? That drop-down list is going to be based on whether it's a text, if it's going to be equals, less than if it's a text field. If it's a number field, I want these to be the options, and if it's date, these to be options. So how do we do that? Well, we need to know what this is. So let's fill in some information here. I need to know what type this is. So let's fill in some information here, things that we're going to need. So we need to know the header type. That's important. What is the header type? And I'm going to put that information right here. Let's color, let's say these 3. Just give it some different color. These are going to be hidden, right? When you have your application, you just hide these fields, and it's very simple. You would be these first, in this case, our first 4. That's a little bit too dark. Can't read the writing on there. So we'll color this just a light green. So I want the header type here, and then here I want the filter format. I want to know what format we should have, and I want some filter detail. What is the filter detail? That's going to be basically this information here. So once they select it, I want to know what filter. Was it this one, or this one? Because we need to put that as our criteria. Remember, we're going to replace them. So if they choose less than is greater than, I'm going to have this appear in our criteria. Our criteria is going to be a dynamic criteria. It's going to go right here. Then based on this criteria, we're going to have our results show up right in here. Then I'm going to take the results, whatever show up here, I'm going to bring them right back into here, and I'm going to put them in a table right here. Let's write that out. Let's put that table. I've got a Merchant Center here all ready to make things a little bit easier. Customer list. And then all it's going to be is just the same data. So we can just copy this here. It's going to be no different than this here. And I'm going to have our results appear right in this space. So I'm going to paste values here. That's what we're going to show. That's what I want to show. So let's just put some borders around there and then some basic so we can get an idea of exactly what we're going to be doing. We want the results to appear here. So that way we have dynamic results no matter what we are doing. It's always going to show up right in the fields there. And then I'll just give this a little bit of a format, something with our theme here. I'm trying to do a little bit less formatting because those who've been following us understand the formats are kind of basic. And we want to put the focus on the filtering part of it, not necessarily the formatting, because it does take a little bit of extra time. And I try to keep these as low as possible as far as time, but usually they're around an hour or longer. One of the weeks was 3 hours long. That was way too long. So keeping them down. So sometimes putting in a little bit of information helps. All right, so I've just formatted these, just given some basic formats for this table. And I believe I have some conditional formatting. Let's just check. I did add some earlier. Okay, I've got some conditional formatting already here. So it's basically what we're going to do is color the odd and even rows based on data. You can download this and check it out, but we're not going to focus on conditional formatting, basically odd and even rows. So all we do is as soon as we add data here, it's going to format those. So I just added those already. So you can see as soon as we bring in the data, those formats based on the odd or even row are going to show up white or very light blue. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to know what header type this is. If it's company name, it's going to be text. If it's total sales, it's going to be number. If it's started on, that's a date field. I need a date, so I want to put that right here. How do we do that? Well, we can use a formula. It's going to be really simple. All we need to do is just use an indirect formula. So how do we do that? Well, let's just take a look. Equals indirect, and then what is it? We're going to use the data. I want to use data. Remember, focused on the data here, data sheet. And we're going to do row. What is the row in our data sheet? 2. Why are we doing row 2? And then column, row 2, column. And I'll show you that in a second. And what we're going to do is the match. So I'm going to use the R1C1 format on indirect. And what I want to do is I want to match whatever they've put on here. So we're going to match what's in H2, I should say. H2, that's what I want to match. And I want to base it on the named range customer header. And I want an exact match. Okay, so that is going to get us our column. In this case, I want our column. And since this is R1C1, that would be false. Okay, and this should be data. Okay, let's take a look at that. All right, that's exactly what I want. When started on, I want a date. When total sales, I want this to be number. And when it's any other thing, I want it to be text. That's exactly what I want. I also want to wrap this around if error. Just in case there's an error, I'm going to wrap that and then put a blanks if there's an error. Okay, so now that I have the header type, I want to place that header type right here in a dynamic drop-down list. So as soon as we change this, the drop-down list is going to change. And I also want to know the format. How are we going to get the filter format? What do I want by filter? I want to know, is it going to be this @ sign? Is it going to be the number? Or is it going to be the date? Now we can use that. All we need to do is just type using another indirect to determine that. So let's write that now. The filter format would be equals indirect filters. Okay, we're focused on the filters sheet in this case, and it's also going to be R1, and we're focused on row. What is the row? That's going to be row 11. That's where our filters are located. But what is the column? The column is dynamic. It's going to be based on the match formula. So it's going to be and, right? We need to match up. I want to match the header type, right? So I'm going to look up this value, and what is the array that I'm going to look up? I'm going to look it up right here. I'm going to look it up right here, all the way here. I'm looking for a match. And so, but this would return column 1 if it's found here. But I really don't want column 1. I want column 17. So how are we going to get that? We just need to add 17. So the first thing I want to do is I want an exact match. So comma 0. That's going to get us an exact plus 16. Plus 16. That is going to get us the exact column we want. And this is going to be also R1C1, so it is false. All right, let's take a look at that. That's what I want, the @ there if it's text. If I change this to total sales, it should go to number. And if I change this to started on, it should go to date. That's what I want. I also want to wrap this on if error as well. So let's add that in. And just in case there's an error, we're going to put it in double quotes. That's going to be blank. Okay, great. So what do I want? When they change started on, I want this to change to the date drop down list. Remember, we have named ranges. We've got a text named range here, drop down list. We've got number and we've got date. So I want this drop down list to be dynamic, a dynamic data validation. I'm going to place that right here in I2. When do I want that to change? I want that to change as soon as I make a change to H2. So we can do that with VBA. So let's go into that. We can go into the developers and then Visual Basic or Alt F11 will get you there. And let's write some code. This is of course going to be a worksheet event. It's not going to be selection change. We're going to be focused on an actual change. And what is that change? That change is based on H2. So I'm going to type some code. I type that out automatically using AutoHotkey. AutoHotkey is going to be able to automate. You can download that for free. That's what I use. So we're going to focus on I2. We want to make sure that D1 is not empty. If D1 is not empty, take the data validation and place it in I2. So how can we do that? Well, first of all, let's make sure and range D1 dot value does not equal empty. As long as those two conditions are met, then we can do something. We can add that data validation in. Then add that data validation. First thing we want to do, of course, is delete the validation. We can't add any validation in any cell unless we got to make sure it's already deleted just in case. So range I2 is the one we're focused on. I2 dot validation dot delete. That's going to remove any existing validation. Now we're ready to add it. Once we've removed it, we can add another one. So how do we do that? Range, this should be I2, not L2, I2. Again, I2, this time we're going to add a validation. So we can just copy that, paste it down here. This time it's validation.add. So we're adding a validation. And what type of validation? It's going to be a list, right? We want a drop down list. So let's write list. And then again, alert style, that's an optional. We don't need that operator. That's also optional. Formula. Now we do need a formula. What is the formula? It's going to be equals. And we also want to know equals what? Equals whatever is in D1. So range D1 dot value, whatever that is our validation. Okay, right? So again, let's just take a look at that and see what we have here. Started on. Now if I change this to total sales, I want this to be based on is less than. Now it works. So what if I want to change it to a date? If I started on, it's going to be date. Now the date validation is going to be, and again, text is company name. That's great. So what if I put 1-1 here? I want this to become a date, right? I want to change the format of J2 based on that. So if it's a date, right? If it's total sales, I want this to be number. If it's started on, I want this to be date. So I want to change the format of J2. So how can I do that? Well, I can use this format that's right here into D2. So we can do that with just one line of code. So let's do that. Range J2, we're focused on J2 now, dot number format equals whatever's in D2, range D2 dot value. Good. Okay, but I also want to do a few things. When a user makes a change to H2, I really want to clear out I2 and J2. I want to clear it out because they'll have to put in new values. So we can do that just with this line of code. Range, again, I2 through, you could use comma as well, it's only to J2 dot clear contents. You don't want to use clear because that will clear out all the formats. We just want clear the contents, clear contents. Okay, great. So let's just take a look at that and see how that works. That's a good part of our, let's say we have on or before, let's say 11-1, okay. And now let's change this to started on. Let's just double click that. It clears it out, right? And now when we have on or after, and now when we type in 11-1, it's going to be formatted as a date. That's exactly what I want. But if we change it to total sales, and then we change it to something less than or equal to 1, that's perfect. That's a number format. And then if I change the text format, It's going to be does not equal, and then it'll just be, even if I put in 1, it's going to be treated as a text. That's what I want. That's what I want. Okay, great. So that's all we really need to do as far as these concerned. That's it. That's for our code. Perfect. But we need to add some buttons. So what kind of buttons are we going to be adding? It's just about 3 buttons. I want to be able to add a filter. I want to be able to update a filter, and I want to be able to clear all the filters. So let's add that, and let's add some icons. So I'm going to insert pictures here, and I've got some pictures saved up here, and let's just take a look here in the dynamic filters. Pretty much what we're going to need is just these 4. So let's insert that, and then we'll make them all just around like 0.23 or something. We will adjust the sizes. This one I'm going to duplicate and use Control D and use one as our icon up here, and then I'll use one in the clear filter. We'll use this a few times because I want to clear the filter, update the filter, and we're going to create our button sets, and we're going to create our filter buttons. So let's do that. Insert shapes, and we'll just create our buttons first here for this, and then we'll add our shapes because that'll probably come first. So let's give it a format of this, generally just a format of buttons, and I want to add a filter. So let's add filter, and then I'm going to right justify that and center it. So we'll go into the home, center in the middle, and then right justify it. And then I'm going to put the icon here. So we're going to need this filter a few different times. Duplicate that, and I also want to move this. So we'll use this for add a filter, but this icon's too big, and we'll put this here. I'm going to zoom in, and we need to bring it to the front. It's behind the button now, so we'll just go ahead and bring to the front. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. In fact, I'm going to bring them all to the front, holding the control down, bring them all to the front. And we'll probably have to do that a few times. So the add a filter, we're going to use this, but it's too big for that. So we'll drop that down to 0.17 or something like that. And maybe 0.16. Okay, so that's good. So now we've got our add filter button pretty much here, and I want to update. So that's for adding a brand new filter. But what about if we just want to update an existing one? That's going to be a new button. So let's do that. I'm going to use this for the update and use this icon. So let's just duplicate that, Control D, and then I also want to clear the filters, Control D again. We can send these 2 to the back because all of our icons are going to be behind or above that, so we can send it to the back. That's fine. And then so this one's going to be clear the filter. We want to clear, in case we want to clear all the filters, clear filter, and I'm going to use this icon, this X icon, to clear the filter. They're all going to contain this here, and then I can bring that, I can reduce the size of this, clear the filter. That looks good. That's what I want. That's enough for our clear filter button. I'm going to hold down Control, selecting all the icons, and I'm going to group this, and I'm going to call this clear filter button. Naming is very important, although this one's not going to be hidden. And then I want the add filter button, and we're going to make this update filter. So update filter, that's what I want. And I'll place this icon right here, and then this icon right on top. So that's just going to update it. That's what I want. I'll make this a little bit bigger, just so it's consistent. And then I'm again holding the control, looking for the plus, and then then I'm ready to group it. And we'll call this update filter button, and I'm going to call this add filter button. Pretty simple, pretty standard. Holding down the control again, grouping them, naming them, group and name, add filter button. Okay, so we've got everything. Now the update and the add filter, both of those are never going to be shown at the same time, so we can put those right on top of each other. And then what I'll do is I'll just use my selection tool, and then I'm going to put all of these directly in line. I'm going to line them up right here. All right, now they're all lined up in the middle. That's what I want. All right, good. So we've got our button sets, and let's reduce that a little bit, and we can go out of the selection, zoom out a little bit. Now there's some other buttons that I'm going to need, and those are the filter ones. Those are the dynamic. So why don't we create those now? I'm just going to insert a shape, and we'll use this again, rounded, but this time we're going to do it a little bit different. I'm just going to color this one just a basic shape. We don't want an outline, just give it a basic color like this color, and we'll give it a shape fill. Let's just say this fill, and then shape outline of the same color, so that way. But this one I wanted to round it, so I'm going to use the rounded. I'm going to go completely rounded, so I'm going to bring it all the way over here like that. And I don't think this one's going to be too big, so we'll probably focus this one right about 0.22. I think that should be good. Just the height is 0.22. And the horizontal, the width of it's going to be dynamic based on the text. So that should be fine there. That looks good. Depending upon how much text is in, it's going to change. All right, so what else do I want to do? Actually, I want to create another button. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I want a close button. So how do we do that? I'm just going to make this perfectly round in this case, so it's going to be the same width and height. And then I'm going to add a close. I'm going to add an X. So I'm going to use a capital X there. But I also want this obviously centered and there. So I'll also make it bold too. I want to make it bold. So this is going to be we're going to be use this for our close. So basically the idea is that this is going to go on top of this like here, and then the text is going to go, and if they want to close it, they're just going to click this button. So I want to name these two. These are going to be our samples. So let's bring this here and bring this here, and then we're going to call this I'm going to call it sample clear, because I want to clear that filter. And what about the other one? I'm going to call this sample filter. So we have sample clear and sample filter. That's going to help us because I'm going to use that for each one of my filters, right? So they're going to go, all of our filters, so if we have multiple filters, they're all going to go in this area right here, so we can create multiple ones. So now we have sample filters, sample close. Great. I also want to know the filter detail. What do I mean by that? When they select contains, I don't want the word contains here. I want an actual detail. I want to put this filter detail or this filter detail or this filter detail. Now we can use both of the information, whatever they've selected here, and based on the filter number here, based on whether it's text and based on whether it's here, to determine this. So how do we do that? Well, again, we can use indirect there. It's going to be a little bit bigger of a formula. So let's write this out and then I'll explain it. So it's going to be equals indirect. And then what I want to do, it's also going to be R1C1. So the row is going to be dynamic, and so is the column. So the row is matching. We're going to match whatever is in I2. So I2 is going to be the match, but I also want to use indirect. So now how do we get the column? So again, let's continue on. I'm going to use another indirect even more, because I need to focus on the entire range. So R, again, indirect R, 5, right? Why 5? Why row 5? Because that's the beginning of our range. Row 5 is the beginning, row 10 is the end. So we're going to look for between a range between 5 and between 10. So let's write, that's the first part, R5, column, and match. What am I going to match? D1. Remember, we're focused on D1. I want to match. And where are we looking? D1. Let's just take a look. D1 is already have our text, but I want to match that. I'm looking again for the match between Q4 and V4 here. Q4 and V4. Look for that. We want an exact match. Exact. Also, again, I want the column number. In this case, I'm looking for the column again, so we have to add 16 because we want the actual column number. So once we have that, and what else do we need? And I want to continue again through, I'm looking through, we started on row 5, but it's all the way through row 10, 5 through 10. That's what we're looking at. So it's going to be and colon R10, right? 5 through 10, column, again, and we're going to use the same column, right? So row 10, row 5, column is dynamic, through row 10, again, column is going to be the same thing. We're using the same column, right? And make sure we add and the match. Again, we're using the same match. Again, same plus 16, and again, there we go. That's the range. And of course, this is going to be false, R1C1 style. So we have that. Plus, what else do we need? We want to add more. Plus 4. Why are we adding 4? Because I need the row. Again, so we're adding this. We want to add the 4 onto that. We need the exact row. Plus 4. What else? And the column. What is the column? Column is also the match. Now we got the column. Again, matching again. Matching once again. D1. Looking for that D1. Again, all the way through. This is going to help us getting that match again. This is going to be a big formula. I want an exact match. So again, doing that. Plus 16 one more time, and then plus 1. We're going to plus 1. I'll explain that to you in a minute. Comma again, false, plus 16. Remember, we want the column. We're going to start plus 16. In this case, plus 1. Why are we plussing 1? Plus 1, right? Why do we plus 1? We want a 16, but I don't want this, right? I want this, the filter. That's why we have to add 1. We don't want this. We want one additional one because we want the filter. So plus 16 plus 1. False. Again, it's R1C1 style. Okay, let's take a look at that. All right, that's going to give us what we want. That's exactly what I want, the header type. And notice there's an apostrophe before it. That's going to help keep it a text for now until we can get it into the validation. That's what I want. Again, I'm going to wrap this also around if error, and I'll explain this formula a little bit more in a second. I want to wrap this on just in case there's an error. Okay, good. So what do we have here? So what I'm doing is I'm basically looking up here in direct. I'm looking up based on the value here, 2 lookups. Here's going to tell us our column. This is going to tell us our row. And then I'm going to do plus 1. It's going to get us the value. So based on whatever the user chooses here, we are going to get a filter detail right here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this inside here, inside one of these criteria. And of course, I'm going to change value with whatever the user has placed here. And I'm going to walk you through those steps. But those are really important. So we need these 3 components. We need the text for the header type. I need the format to place that here. And I also need the filter detail. Okay, that's it for the complex formulas. So everything else is pretty much just a little bit of VBA. I'm going to walk you through those macros. Let's fill out some of the other information here. What do we really want? I want some information built in. I want to know the filter shape row because we're going to put these rows down here. In fact, here in 6, I want to keep track of all of the filters that have been created. So we're going to put the filter number here. So that means as we create filters, filter number here. So that means as we create filters, it's going to be 1, filter 2. So it's going to be tracked down here. And I also want to know the field, right? What is the field here? Is it customer email? Is it company name? Is it first name? What is the field? And I want to know the type. Again, I want to make sure we know what is the filter type. And the last thing, I want to know the value that they've entered. So all these are really important. So let's just go ahead and color those and then put some borders around them. So I want to keep track of all of that here. So as the user adds filters, they're all going to be kept here. And then when they clear the filters, we're going to clear this section here. So that's going to track that. And I also want to know what row have we selected. So if they select a specific filter, I want to know which one they've selected. So we need that here. So let's put that up in here. So I want to know the selective shape row, the shape row. We're going to put that here. I want to know the last filter, right? What is the last filter there? What's the last one? And then I want to know the next filter, just in case, so we keep track of each one by one, and then the selected filter number. What do I mean by the selected? If there's a filter here and they select it, I want to know which one they've selected, 1, 2, or 3. So that way we can track. I'm going to load all the filter details, and the one they select, they can easily make changes to that filter and then click the update. All right, so what do we need to do? Let's color those so we see them separately and differently so that they're unique. Okay, so now that we've colored these rows, so what do I want for that? Well, there's a few things that I want. There's only really a little bit of formula here. In this one, we're going to use this max. So I've got filter. So what I want to know is the maximum here. I want to know the last filter that's just the max. So again, let's do that. Equals the max of what? We don't need a named range here. So we're just gonna go all the way down. There's gonna be not that many filters. What is the max there? I want to know. That's all I want to know. I want to know the last filter. In this case, it's 3. But I also want to know the next filter. What would be the next? It would be the same as this plus 1. So let's just copy that, bring it down here. So the next one in this case would be 4. So plus 1. Now we have the next. So we know which one is going to be the next. And of course, if all of these are clear, the next would be. This would change to 1. And then the selected filter number, this will be from VBA. If they select a filter, whatever they've selected here will be put here. All right, great. So now we're getting ready. We've got a lot covered here. And we're ready to continue on with our macros. So let's just update that accordingly. Now we're ready to write some macros so that we can get this functional. Let's just add a little bit of shadow to this so that way the filters, when they bounce off. So what do I really want to do? Well, what I'm going to try to do basically in this one is when a user adds a filter, I want to put whatever text filter by company name does not equal this. I want to put that text right in here. And basically I'm going to duplicate this sample shape. I'm going to let's do a sample. What I want is I want it to say company name does not equal DDD, something like that. And then I want to stretch this over here like that. And then of course we got to center that here and left. In fact, I'm going to do the same thing with this one, center it and left. That's what I want, centered and left. Then what I want to do is I want to duplicate this through VBA. I want to put that right about like this and then bring it up. So that's what I want. I want the filter to look like that. So then when they select this filter, all the details go in here. And I want this shape to automatically be as wide or as narrow as the text. So I want all the text to fit in here. So the width of this shape is going to be dynamic based on all the text. And then, so when the user clicks X, it's going to clear the filter and clear all the filter here. Or when they click the shape itself, it's going to actually fill in all the details here. It's going to be really great. I can't wait. So let's get started. So that's what I want. That's what I want to happen there. So how do we do that? Well, we can use just a little bit of VBA to do that. We can write some macros. So the first thing we want to do is write some macros that's going to add some variables so we can do that. So let's go into the VBA and start writing some macros. I'm going to put everything basically on this particular thing. I want to add a little bit more code on this on sheet just to make sure if the user makes a change to any of the fields, any of these fields, H2, I2, or J2, I want to make sure that the add filter button is visible in the case that they want to add the visible. So let's do that. And I want to make sure if B4 is empty. B4 is the selected filter. So if they select an existing filter, I want the filter number that they go, the filter 1, 2, 3, I want that to be put in B4. But let's just say B4 is not empty. That means there's no existing filter. If they make a change here, I want to make sure that the add filter button, that's the button behind this, right? When we go to format and we send this to the back, right, we're going to see the add filter. I want to make sure this add filter button is visible. Add filter button. So let's do that right now. Let's just write some code because that's all we really need to do. And that's going to be on change. So if not, what are we changing? We're focused on, again, H2 through J2. So H2 through J2 is nothing. That means they've made a change. And one more thing, I want to make sure that B4 is empty. And range B4.value equals empty. That means it's going to be new. Then what do I want to do? Then again, I just want to make sure that shapes add filter button dot visible equals true. Just want to make sure that that's visible. We could probably hide the update button, but that's okay for now. So that's all I really want to do on the sheet. That's it for our on sheet code. Nothing else we're really going to need to add here. Maybe we'll add some more, but I think that's going to be it. We don't need to do. Okay, so I'm going to put all of our macros in here. And what I want to do is I want to make sure to dimension all of the variables and hope I don't forget any of them because there's quite a number. And then I'm going to use these variables throughout all the macros in there. So the first thing we want to do is dimension the filter name. That's going to be as a string. I want to know that filter name as a string. So what else do we want? I want to know the clear name as a string. We're going to use that, the clear name as a string. And then also I want to know the filter text. That's the text that's going to go inside that filter button as a string also. These are going to be all string variables. And also, again, I want the clear text. Clear text, we need that as string. And then the last filter is a string. So that's it for the string variable. Last filter as string. Okay, that's it for our string dimensions. Now we have some ones that are long. So let's focus on that. Dimension, I want to know also the selected filter row. Remember, that's important. Selected filter row as long. It's going to be the row that they select, so we know. And also the filter row, in case we need to loop through those filters when we're clearing it. Filter row as long. And also the last filter. Remember, the last filter, if we're going to loop through them, we need to know the last one. Filter row as long. What do I mean by that? Well, again, we want to focus. If we have 5 different filters, I want to loop through all these filters. So I need to know the last one, and I need to know the first one. We need to loop through them. Maybe when we clear them out, we're going to run through all those. So we need that. That's all very, very important. Also, I wanted to mention the filter number as long, or it could be 1. That's important. We want to know the filter number that we're on, and then the last filter number as long. Okay, so what else do we need? we need to set the position of these filters, the left position, top position. So dimension the left position as long, and the top position as long. And also I want to know the add. If we're adding a filter, I want to know what row that is. So add filter row as long. And also, again, dimension the last data row. When we run our advanced filter, I need to know the last row of our data. Last data row as long, and also the last result row as long. Okay, so that's it. So the last data row and the last results row. Again, that's important because when we're filtering on our data sheet, I need to know the last row. In this case, it's 103. So we need to run our advanced filter. And also, when we get our results, I need to know the last row of the results so that I can bring those results over into this filter here. Okay, great. It's coming along just fine now. Now we're ready to write a macro. So what kind of macro? First thing I want to do is I want to be able to add a filter. If I click add a filter, I want this filter, I want to click add a filter, and I want that filter to be added right away. So how can we do that? Well, we can just write a little bit of a macro to do that. So let's write that now. Sub add filter. And we're focused on with sheet 1. So let's write that out with sheet 1. And the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the necessary fields, we want to make sure that I2, H2, J2 are all not empty. So let's write that if dot range h2 dot value equals empty, or what else, or j2 or i2. So let's put that, let's just copy that and then make those changes, or j2 or i2. Then so now we just need to update this h2, i2, or j2. If any of those are empty, we can't add the filter, so we need to let the user know to please add the required fields. So message box, please make sure to fill in all fields. Okay, exit sub. Nothing we can do if they haven't added those details, so that's really important. What else? Okay, so now what we can do is we can assign some of those variables we created, and then let's just drop this down here so we can see a little bit on the screen and see what's going on. That's going to be helpful for us. Let's reduce this because we need to see some of the things that are going on the screen as well. Okay, so I still want to reduce it a little bit more. Bring it down here. Actually, I can bring it across here so we can see everything. Okay, that's better. I like that better. What do we want to do? I want to do the filter number is going to be what's in B3. Filter number equals dot range B3. That's our filter number, the selected filter number. We need to know what filter number is. That's going to be the next filter number, right? Because it's the first available one. If there's no filters that are existing, that'll be 1. So B3 is going to take care of that for us. Filter number. Everything has a number. Everything must be tracked. Next, I want to track the filter name. What is the name of that filter? Filter. This should be filter. I want to make sure to get these variables right. Filter name. What's our filter name going to be? Is going to be, we're going to give it a specific name, equals the word filter and the number, and the filter number. Okay, so that's what it's going to be. So it's going to be filter name. That's the name we're going to assign to the button. I also want the clear name, right? Remember, this is the filter. We need to assign a name to this, and I need to assign a name to this. So we need to do that, and I need to give it specific names so that way we can remove them very clearly. So we can do that. The clear name is going to be also very simple. Clear and the filter number. Filter number. Okay, so now we will be able to give those shapes very specific names. Clear, we'll just call it clear name. Okay, but what about the text? What text do we want here? Basically, I want this, this, and this. I want that text, remember, to be in that. We're going to duplicate that button and place the text inside this. So let's set the text now. Filter text is going to be equal to dot range h2, as you can imagine, and what else? And the space, and a space, and what else? Obviously j2, so, or i2, so dot range i2, and another space, but I'll probably put a colon there, and space, and in this case colon, right, because it's part of it, that's not equal, and then a space, and then the last one, which would be j2, dot range j2. Okay, so now we have the filter text. So basically it's going to say company name does not equal DDD or whatever, something, whatever it is in this case. So we have all that. We have the filter text, and that's going to be placed inside. Okay, so we'll call this the filter field, type, and value. Okay, excellent. So now we have the text. Let's go. Now what we want to do is we want to set the filter row. I need to know what row that's going to go into. So how do we do that? Well, the filter row is going to be located in B1, right? This is going to be, I'm going to put that right here in B1. So let's set that up right now. Okay, so that should be set filter row is going to be equal to B1. Set filter row, I've changed it to set filter row equals dot range B1. B1 is going to be our filter row. Now we know. We'll call this filter row. I want to know the row. What's after that? I also want to know the add filter row. What are we going to add it, right? I want to know what is this add filter row. Now what is the filter row? It's going to either be 3 or 4, right? Because I want our filter, so we'll start that off at 3. Right? Because that's where we're going to place our filters. After we complete, if we put enough filters in here, we need to drop it down, we need to add 4. So I'm going to start it off at 3, and if it's bigger, we're going to go to 4. Okay, so we'll start it at 3. What about our add filter row? In this case, it's going to start at 7 and continue down. So we need, when we add a filter, we need to do that, put that all of our filter details here in 7 or 8 as we fill up our filters. So we can do that. Now we have our set filter row, but let's put in our add filter row. Filter row. Lots of variables here and lots of different ones, but we'll get through it. Equals, that's going to be in B2. Why is that? B2 is going to be 0. Remember, B2 is our max. So if I want 7 and I have none currently, all I need to do is add 7 to that. Add 7 to whatever's in B2. That way I can get 7, which is going to be our first available row. As soon as I add in 1, right, this is going to change to 1, and then 7 plus 1 is going to be 8. So that's going to help us. All we need to do is add 7 to that. So our add filter row is going to be equal to B2. Let's put in B2 plus 7. B2 plus 7. Okay, so now we have that. We'll call that our add filter row. That's what we're going to add filter row. Okay, now we just need to set the last filter shape name. So we can do that if last filter number does not equal 0, because that means there was none before that. Does not equal 0. That means there was 1 before that. Then last filter equals filter and last filter number. And that's going to be the last filter shape name. I want to know the last one. Okay, so now we're ready to set the top position. I want my filters to show all the way up here, so we need to get the top position. That's going to be based on what's in B1. That's the row. So the top position is equal to dot range. Again, we can use any column A and whatever's in B1, which is the select set filter row, the set filter row. We've already defined it right up here. Set filter row equals B1. Okay, so but that would, the top position is going to be the top position of that, so it's going to be top. I've got to make sure we put the and sign in here too. And the top position of that cell, because that's what I want to know. I just don't want to know the cell. I want to know the top position of that. So we'll call that the top position. And also what I want to know, remember again, now that we have the top position set, it's pretty easy, but what about the left position? It's going to be based on other filters, right? Because I can't put the filters on top of each other. I need to put them to the right of each other or below. So let's set if the last filter number equals 0, then we know it's going to be the first position, our first one. If it's our first one, I'm going to put it right up here, G, in G, column G. That's going to be our left position, column G. So if our last filter number equals 0, then we know our left position is equal to dot range G, and then again we can use any row, 1 dot left, dot left. But what if it's not else? What if it's not? Our left position is going to be different. Left position is going to be equal to dot shapes, our last filter, whatever one the last one was used, right? Last filter, that's why we defined our last filter. Dot left, so the left position of our last filter, and I'll explain these things a little bit later on as we build it out. Dot left, so it's left, but I don't want the same position as left. What do I mean by that? Let's just do a sample so we can see. I'm going to paste this here. Now let's say I have a filter here already, right? I need to paste another one, but I need to create another one. I'm going to create it I need to create it here, right? So I can't have two filters in the same position. So I need to know what is the position of this filter, what is the width of this filter here, and then I need to place it based on the current left, based on the width of this, and then add like 10 and then place another one here. So that's the idea. Find the position of the last filter, the last one, and then place it to the right, or in this case, possibly place it below. So that's what we're going to focus on now. So the left position is equal to the left position plus the width, right? We just focused. So not only do I need the left position of this, the last filter, I also need the width of it because we're adding onto it. So it's going to be plus the width plus what? Plus, let's say 10, plus 10. Okay, so that's going to be it. That's it. Also, I need to check one more thing. If the left position is greater than, right, I can't have them keep going left and left and left and left. Obviously, I need to, once it gets to about here, I need to drop it down a row. So let's check for that. If the left position is more than M, we need to drop it down a row. So we can do that with this code here. So if the left position is greater than dot range, again, we can use any row, M1 dot left, then what do we want to do? Then what I want to do is drop it down a row. So then left position equals, again, dot range G1, right? So we're going to move it back over to the left, dot left, move it back over, and again, I guess I need to increase B1. Remember, what is B1? B1's our top position. Normally it starts in 3, but it could be 4, right? So I need to increase this. I need to increase this from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, theoretically, if we have that many filters, although we're not going to have that many filters, because we can put about 8 filters here, so that's plenty. Okay, so then I need to increase B1. So we can do that with this line of code here. Else, dot left, if it's greater than dot range B1 dot value equals B1. Again, B1, let's just copy paste that, dot range B1, whatever it's currently value equals B1 plus 1. So we're incrementing at plus 1. We're going to increment filter row by 1. Okay, now what we do is reset the filter row. So now that we've increased B1, we can set filter row is going to be equal to whatever's in B1 now. That's going to reset the filter row. And now what we do is reset the top position. So the top position is equal to dot range. Again, we can use any column A and the set filter row. That should be filter, not filt. Okay, so set filter row. So we're resetting the top position, dot top, right? So that's the top position. I want it to top. And then I don't want it right on top. In other words, I don't want it right on top of this. I want it a little bit, few pixels down below. So we can probably add a little bit. So let's plus 6. So I'm going to add 6 pixels down, not so it's not hugging the top right away. So that basically is going to adjust. Again, so all we've done is we've decided as soon as our filters get beyond M, I'm going to drop it down a row here and place our filters here. So I'm going to have one set of filters here and then another set of filters here as we add filters. So that's all we're doing, just dropping down a row with those lines of code. Okay, so we've determined the top position and base it on that. So now we can end if. Now we need one more end if here, and if. So we have multiple. So we have the left position here and end if. Okay, so let's bring up our code a little bit so we can see again. Let's review. So if it's a first left position, the first filter we're ever setting, we're putting it in G1 based on G1. Else if it's not, right, then we need to adjust it based on whatever the last position was. So we're going to keep moving it. The first one's going to be here, moving it over, moving it over. Once we get beyond it, we're going to drop it down and then move it over again. So that's all we're doing with those lines of code, just adjusting the left and top positions based on the current and prior. Okay, great. So we're done with that. Now let's continue on. If the last filter number does not equal 0, then last filter equals, again, filter, we need to reset filter and the last filter number and the last filter number. Okay, then we've got that. And so what does that do? That's going to make sure that we have set the last filter name. We're just resetting it to make sure we have correct. 0 should be 0. Okay, so now we're resetting. All right, what next? I want to set up. Now we're ready. Now I'm ready to create our filter. So the first thing I want to do is duplicate this and then set that and position it and put the name in. And then I'm going to duplicate this and set that. So we can do that with this line of code. Dot shapes sample filter dot duplicate, and then I want to set it a name. What is the name? It's going to be the filter name equals the filter name. And then I'm ready to reset it. Now that we've created it, we can set the position and set the size. So we're going to do both of those. So with shapes filter name, what are we going to do? We're going to do a few things. First thing, I want to set the text. So the dot actually should be dot shapes. There we go. First thing I want to do is set the text frame 2 we're going to focus on, and then the text range, and then the text. What is the text of that filter? It's going to be the filter text equals the filter text, right? That's the text that we've defined all the way up here, right up here. Remember H2, I1, we're going to place all that filter text inside that shape. Filter text, obviously. Okay, so once we have that, what I want to do, I want to auto size it. So dot text frame dot auto size. And what that's going to do is automatically size it both horizontally, both the width and the height. But I really don't want, I want to resize the width, but I don't want to resize the height. I want to keep the height pretty much the same. So we're going to have to reset that. So the auto size is going to be equal to true. And then what I want to do is I want to set the width equals the width. I want to increase it. Why do I want to increase it? Not only do I want to set it, so I want to add a little bit more space. So it's increased it based on the text, but I want to add a little bit more space because I want to put this inside the right space. So I want to add additional width. So we can do that with this line of code. So dot width is equal to whatever the current dot width is plus perhaps 17, plus let's say 17. So that's going to increase the width a little bit so we have space for the close button on the right side. And now what is the left dot left? We've already set the left is going to be the left equals the left position. That's set our left position. And also when we need the top, dot top is equal to the top position. And I also want to assign a macro to it, right? When I click this filter, I want these information to fill in here. So we're going to assign a macro to that, and we haven't built the macro yet, but we're going to. So dot on action equals, we're going to call a macro called load. We haven't created it yet, but we will. Load filter. That's the macro that I'm going to create. And then dot visible, I want to make sure it's equals MSO true. That's it. That's all we have to do for our filter. But we've now created the filter. So basically all we've done with that line of code is create the filter, placed it up here, put in the text, and that's about it. That's all we've done here. Now what I want to do is I want to duplicate this here, which is our, actually I need to name that, huh? That should be sample clear. I thought I named that. Okay, sample clear. Now I want to duplicate that sample clear, and I want to assign it a name, and then I'm going to place it right up in here, and I'm going to bring it to the front. That's what I'm going to do with the next lines of code. So let's put that in right now. So again, we've already named it here. We've already duplicated. So now let's duplicate the sample clear, the one we just named. So we can do that here. Let's write in some note, duplicate clear button. So to dot shapes sample clear, that's the one we just named, sample clear dot duplicate dot name. Again, we're giving it a name. In this case, I'm going to give it a clear name equals the clear name. We've already defined the clear name up here. What is the clear name? It is the clear and then the filter number. Okay, so we've assigned that. That's going to create clear button. And again, all we have to do is again place this as well, but this is a little bit easier because we've already placed it. So with dot shapes, in this case clear name, that's the name we just created. What are we going to do with that? I'm going to set a specific width and a specific height just to make sure, even though it should be correct already. Dot width equals, again, 17. I want to make sure the height is exactly the same, equals 17. So it's going to set the width and the height, and I want to set the left position. The left position is equal to, again, we just focused on the left position, right? It's going to be this left position right here plus the width of this right? Minus 17 again. So left position is equal to sheet 1. I need to call out the sheet because I'm inside a with shape, so I'm already inside this, so I need to call out the sheet. Sheet 1 dot shapes filter name. That's the filter we just created up here. Remember, we're placing it on this filter here. We're placing it based on this filter name, so that's the one. So filter name dot width, the width of that minus 17, right? Because we don't want it after. I want it inside that. So dot left minus 17. And what about the top position? Going to have the same exact top position as we placed before. So the top position is going to be the top position equals top position. We've already set the top position. And again, I also want to assign a macro to the clear button. That's going to be a different macro. Dot on action is going to be equal to remove filter. And then dot visible equals MSO true. That's all we have to do with our clear button. That's going to place it. All right, so now what I want to do, now we've got our filter added up here. We've got our shape and we've got our close, but I want to add those filter details. I want to know what we've added. I want to put all those details right here into our filter row. So we know the filter number, the field, that should be field, the type, and the value. So how do we do that? We do that with just a few lines of code right here. So let's put some notes in here. Add filter details. And the first thing is with, column A dot range A, and we've already set our add filter row and add filter row. We've already defined the row. What are we putting there? I'm going to put the filter number equals the filter number. I want to keep track of what filter number we're on, the filter number. Okay, so what about that? Now that's good. What about in B? I want to put something in B. I want to put whatever's in H2. So we're going to put in B here, whatever's in dot range, H2. And of course, that is going to be our filter by. Filter by. All right, what else? We've got more. Let's just copy this, bring it down, and then in column C, we are going to place our filter type, and that's going to come from I2. So I2 is going to be our filter type. Filter type, and then one more. Also, we need to have our filter value. Filter value, and that's going to go in column D, and it's going to come from J2, as you can imagine. Okay, so we've got A, B, C, and D, all of our columns filled out. We're going to keep track of it. Now what we're going to do is now we need to set our criteria. So now we've created our filter, but we've put our filter here. We've put our information here, but we haven't created I want to take the criteria and I want to put it inside here, right in here. Now keep in mind, this is column 14 here. So basically the first column, our first criteria is going to be placed here. Our second criteria, our second filter is going to be placed here, our third here. So as we add filters, the criteria are going to be placed here. So if it's a date criteria, we're going to put in the word date here, and then I'm going to put in the actual date of that criteria here based on this. And what is our criteria going to be? It's going to be based on like this, but the value, this word value is going to be replaced with the actual value that they've placed here. So I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. It's really relatively simple. So let's do that right now. So we're going to put some notes here called set filter criteria. And that's going to focus on sheet 2. Sheet 2 dot cells. We're using cells because both our row and our column is dynamic. So what is our row? We know our row. Why do I know our row? Because our row, the first thing we're going to do is put that header right here in row 2. We just don't know the column. If it's our first data, we're going to put it in column 15. If our second, in column 16. So we can do that. We just need to add. So how do we do that? Well, with this line of code, sheet 2, we know the row, but what is the column? The column is going to be essentially the filter number plus 14. So if it's the first filter, it's going to end up in column 15. All right, and what are we going to replace there? Dot value equals dot range. Again, H2 is going to be there. H2, that is our header value, right? That's the header company or whatever it is. Add filter by field. Next up, all we need to do is the value. So again, this time it's going to be in row 3. So we can copy this pretty much. This is going to be, the only difference is going to be in this case, our criteria is going to go in row 3. So our criteria. But what is our again, all we need to do here, we know that we've already defined this. We've defined that inside D3 is going to be our filter detail, but remember we have to take value, take it out and replace it with whatever they've put in J2. So we can do that using the replace statement. So it's going to be equals replace dot range D3, whatever's in D3, and what is our find? What are we looking for? I'm looking for value. So I'm going to place the brackets value. I'm looking for this, wherever value is, and I'm going to replace that. What am I replacing it with? With whatever's in J2, dot range J2. So that's the full replace. So we're just replacing value with whatever they've entered. Okay, good. So now we have our criteria done, and we're almost done with this. All I need to do is, once we've added a filter, I just want to clear, I'm going to clear this out. H2, J2, we've already added it, so we can clear out H2 through J2. So let's do that. Dot range H2 through J2 dot clear contents. Okay, then I want to run a macro. I'm going to create a brand new macro, and we're going to call it advanced filter. That's going to run our filter. Why are we doing that? Why are we not writing our advanced filter here? We're not writing it because our advanced filter is going to be used for multiple. We're going to use it for update, and we're going to use it for add new. So that's why I'm going to run advanced filter. That's going to be a macro. This is going to be run advanced filter and add results. Okay, great, that's it. So of course we cannot forget, we got to make sure we create a macro sub run advanced filter. That's obviously important because we need to add that. So let's do that right now. And that's just actually a very simple macro. So it's just not too many lines of code with sheet 1. That's what we're focused on. I also want to know the filter number, the last filter number. We need to focus on that. So the last filter number is going to be in B3 minus 1, so or otherwise known as B2. So let's just focus on B3. That's going to be the last one entered. I want to know the last one so we take care of all of those filters. So filter number equals B3 minus 1, which is the last filter number. So let's write that in right now. So we'll set the filter number. Filter number equals dot range B3 value, B3 dot value. And of course that's going to be our last filter number. Okay, again, what I want to do, I also want to make sure we clear all the existing data. Anytime we run a filter, we're going to clear G7 all the way through N and down. We need to just clear any results that are there so we can rerun our filter. So dot range G7 through N, and then we'll just use a large number, 99999, dot clear the content. Clear content. Contents. Clear any old results, okay? Because we're going to make a brand new filter, and now we're ready to run our advanced filter. And what is that advanced filter? First of all, I want to know the last data row. Last data row is going to be equal to sheet 2. That's where our data is located. Dot range A, and then just choose large number 999 dot end XL up dot row. That's going to get us our last data row. We just need to make a check to run that there actually is data there. So we can do if last data row is less than 4. That would mean there's no data. Then go to no data. Okay, and just drop that no data. Okay, so just in case there's no data, we need that caveat there. Okay, so assuming that there is data, we can move on. We can now run our advanced filter. So what is our advanced filter? Again, let's just go over it real quick. It's going to be based on the data. I'm going to use this all starting here in column in row 3 all the way over to H, running it down to our last one. Our criteria is going to be whatever based on our last filter row. That's why we need the last row. For example, if our last filter, if we have 2 filters running, if I have 2, let's say I have 2 different filters running, I know that these last 2 filters, if it's here, that's going to help me know that there's just 2 columns to run here. Our criteria is just 2 columns. So I need to know the number of columns based on the number of criteria used. Then we're going to put the results all the way in here. I'm going to take those results, whatever's here, and I'm going to bring them back over here. So let's just write some code to do that right now. So sheet 2 dot range A3, that's our row, must include the headers, through H, and our last data row dot advanced filter. We're going to copy them to another location, and then of course we want the criteria equal to range sheet 2 dot cells. We know it's going to start off in row 2, right? Because that's our header for our criteria. And then we know it's going to start in 15. 15 is our first column, so we know the starting point. But what's the ending point? Sheet 2 dot cells. We know it's also row 3 is our ending row, but our column is variable. Again, this one's going to be filter number plus 14 plus 14. Why is that? Let me show you. And then we got to copy. Let's finish this out first. Copy to range equal to sheet 2 dot range AA2 through AH2, and then unique equals true. Unique equals true. False. Put false. I think false. Let me just check this to make sure it's accurate. It's a long line. Sheet 2, range A3. This is our original data here. We're running an advanced filter. We're going to copy that. Our criteria range is going to be a range, right? Our criteria range, it's going to start out in row 2, column 15. That's our first cell of our range. And our second cell, or our last cell, I should say, is in row 3, the filter number plus 14. Let me just go over that. Why would it be filter number plus 14? So let's say we have 2 rows. Let's say we have 2 filters that we're currently focused on. So that means if 14 is if 15, if we have 1, 15, if 16 would be column 16. So our first is 15, row 2, column 15. Our last is row 3, column 16. So that's how we would get 2 different criteria. But we've already placed our information here, remember, in the last macro. So that's how we run our advanced filter. And then the results, again, are going to go through AA2 all the way through AH2. And then our results are going to come down here. Now that we've run our advanced filter, we just need to check on the results of that. So let's see our last row. So let's get our last row. Our last result row is going to be equal to, we'll use column AA, sheet 2, call range AA, and then 99999 dot end dot XLOut dot row. Okay, so we have last row. We just need to check for results. So if the last result row is less than 3, that means there's no data. Then go to no data. Okay, so now we've got it running, so we know that there's actual data. We can continue on. All I need to do is just copy over the information. Now I need to take the results, whatever is here, and just bring them over into our filters, starting in C. Now remember, this starts in row 7, this starts in row 3, so we're going to need to add 4 onto that. So we can do that with this line of code right here. Dot range G7, that's our first, through and the last result row plus 4 dot value equals, again, on our sheet to our result, 2 dot range AA3 through AH and the last result row dot value. Let me just call this copy over results. That's it. Now we'll fix our bugs, because I'm sure there's a lot of them because I type fast. Okay, so we've got that. Now we've got to run our advanced filter. I'm going to save our work. Should have done that a lot longer ago. Okay, all right, so we've got add filter, and let's just take a look at here and let's add some information here. Filters, okay, company name does not equal, let's just take a look. Let's just put A, company name equals A. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to assign the macro to the one we just created. Right click, assign the macro, add filter. Okay, and then let's just check and fix any bugs that we have. Variable not defined, last filter number. This should be, I think, filt. Sometimes I forget these variables. Okay, again, argument not found, copy to, not quite. There we go, that looks better. Continue on. All right, also fix this issue. This should be 3. Remember, our header is in row 2. Our criteria is in row 3. So we got that fixed. All right, good. Wow, there we go. This is too big. We need to set the height, reset the height of this. Notice it was variable, so we just need to reset the height down because it changes. Not only is it dynamic in width, it's dynamic in height, so we need to reset the height. So let's do that right now. What we want to do is we want to set the height also. That's our clear, which is correct, but I also want to do the same thing here. So reset the height also to 17 on that. And let's close that out. And notice our close button didn't get hit. I think we need to make that visible. Okay, so let's do that again. Let's add it again and make the adjustments as we need them. Does not equal. Let's just make this contains, and let's just say A so we can get some, and add the filter. Okay, company name equals A. I need to drop this down. I don't want it right on top. I want to drop this down. The top position should be adding 6, right? The top position should be plus 6. That's going to drop it down a little bit. That's what I want. And again, the top position, or we can just change the top position right up here, should be plus 6. We can change it here. Because we don't necessarily need to change it here or here as long as we've changed the original. Okay, that looks better. All right, let's take a look at that. Let's see how we're doing. Our left position is getting created. It's not, our left position of our clear is not correct. So we want to clear that out. We want to make sure there's probably a variable. Let me fix that. All right, yeah, obviously this should be plus, not equals. Okay, so that looks good. All right, I think we're getting a lot closer to getting our filters updated. Let's just, we don't have that macro available yet, so no problem. Gonna cut that out, and then we'll just clear this also out. I'm gonna clear the filters out, and we'll center this here, and soon it's gonna be used. Delete that. All right, let's try this again. First name, let's try something contains, so let's just say A, and then add the filter. All right, now we're looking better. Now I got that. Now it looks, that's exactly how I want it. I want that filter perfect. And our information's here, our value, our contains, and let's add another filter. All right, now let's just check. Started on, let's just say is on or after. Okay, 6. Okay, and we'll add that filter. All right, that's exactly what I want. Excellent. Now let's focus on the clear filter. What I want to do is I want to clear all of the filters there. So we're going to write macros to do that. And I also want to select this and update the filter. So we'll write both of those, update and clear, and then we're going to be done. All right, so let's go in here and focus on update fixture. So sub update filter, and that's what I want to do when I select something. I want to update the filter. That's just a little bit of a code, not too much. So let's write that again with sheet 1. Also, again, I want to make sure that just like we did up here and add, I want to make sure that all the fields are required. So if not, let them know. So we can copy and paste that down here. If for some reason any of those fields are empty, exit out of the sub. Okay, I want to get the filter number, the filter row, and the filter text, just like I did up here. Filter number, filter row, filter text. I want to define all these just as I did with add filter and bring them right down here. Filter number, filter row, filter text. That's going to be, we don't need the clear name because that's already set up. We don't need that because that's not going to change. So filter number, filter name, filter text, good. Have all that. And then again, with shape filter number, we're going to set it up. Let's continue on with dot shapes filter and filter number. Again, we want to update the text dot text frame 2, right? Dot text range dot text. I want to update that just because if they've made a change, we want to make sure we update that. Dot text equals filter text. So we want to update that based on any changes they might have made. Drop this down here, and then dot top. What is the top position? Top is going to be equal to sheet 1 dot range, again A, and we're focused on B1. Remember, dot range B1 is going to locate that row. That is our row that keeps track of where our filter should go. Dot top plus 6. We don't want it exactly on the top. Plus 6 is going to drop it down 6 pixels. Dot width, focus on that, equals dot width plus 6. Just going to add a little bit of there on top of that dot width. Just a little bit more than the current to make sure it encompasses all the text. And then we want to reset the height. Dot height equal to make sure, because every time we change that, it's automated. So dot height equals 17. Want to make that height fixed. That's all we're going to be doing when we update that filter. And then of course we're going to need, once we update that, click the update button. We also want to do the same with the clear button. So what do I want to do with the clear button? I want to make sure that's in the correct position. So with dot shapes, clear, and the filter number. And then also want to set the left position. Dot left, again, it's going to be equal, also based on the above shape. Dot left is going to be equal sheet 1 dot shapes based on the filter name above. So we can filter, we can just do filter name. Obviously we can update this. We can do that because we've already defined the filter name. So again, filter name here, set that based on the filter name, easier because we've already defined it. Up here. Name, since we've already defined it here, so it's going to be based on that filter name. Dot left plus the width of it, right? Plus the width, not only the left position but plus the width. So copy that, paste it in, but change that of course to dot width. And then also minus 17, just so we did. Okay, and then I also want to make sure the Z order, dot Z order, I want to make sure that that clear button is always on top. So the best way to do that is just to MSO bring to front. That's going to bring that clear button all the way on top. So that's all we need to do with the clear button. So the left position and the Z orders, all we need to do to make sure nothing else is going to change with that. Okay, so that's what we have. And now what we want to do is we're going to add the filter details again, just like we did before. So let's up here, all we need to do here, of course, we're not going to change the filter number. That's not going to change. So it's just going to be B, C, and D. And then also what I want to do is I probably want to set the format of that too. Kind of forgot that. That's okay. It's not that important. But basically, I want to set the format of this. D. Why do I want to do that? Basically what I want to do is I want to set the format here in case it's not a date format or number. I can set the format too, and the format we know is going to be based on whatever we've selected here in the filter format here in D. So we can do that with this line of code. So again, in this case, D, we're going to set the format. D dot number format is equal to whatever's in D2 dot range D2 dot value. Set format. And I can copy this. We're going to do the same thing here. Right above on the add filter. We can do that too. Set the format here. All right, great. So now we've set the format. That's going to be nice. Now we're going to update the format. So now we've got all the information here. Now we're ready to update the criteria. So update is on sheet 2. Update filter criteria on sheet 2, which is our data sheet. So how do we do that? Sheet 2 dot cells 2. Remember, we're focused on, in this case, row 2. In this case, row 2. And then what is the column? The column is going to be the filter number plus 14. Dot value, that's going to be the header, right? What is, again, we're going to be focused on just whatever's in H2 equals dot range H2. That's just the header, so it's pretty easy. Header. And then next up, we want to do the value. What is the value, just in case we've made an update? So again, this is going to be, the only difference is row 3 of sheet 2, row 3. Here, row 3, that's where we're going to focus. But now again, we're going to do the same thing. It's just going to be that replace. All we do need to do is copy up here. We've already done it up here, basically right here. That's all we're going to be doing. Same thing we've done down here. Same thing right here. Equals, just going to be replacing whatever is in D3 based on what the value and the value that they've created. So that's all we need to do. And again, all we also need to do is just the same thing, clear out the existing just as we did, and then run the advanced filter, and then update the button set is all we need to do here. So again, run the advanced filter, and then I want to update the button set. I want to make sure that we've updated it. After we've updated the filter, we want to make sure the add filter button is equal true and the update is hidden. So dot shapes add filter button dot visible equals MSO true show add filter button, and then I'm going to hide the update button. Dot shapes update filter button dot visible equals MSO false. So we're going to hide that. Hide the update button. Okay, good. So we've got that working. We're going to be able to update it now. We've run our advanced filter. That's it. We've already have the advanced filter. Excellent. But how do I get, one more thing I need to do is I want to load, right? What do I mean by that? I want to, if I click on this, I want to load the information here. I want to take this information here. I want to load it inside here so that we can make that update. So how do we do that? Well, it's just with one little macro. So let's write that macro now, and then we're going to be done for the most part. Sub update filter. That's going to be the macro that we loaded. So let's just write that. It's just a few lines of code with sheet 1, and then the filter number. We always want to know the filter number that we're on is going to be equal to, how do we know the filter number? What is the application called? We've given this a name, right? Filter 1. So in order to know the number of that, all I need to do is remove the word filter, and I automatically I know the filter that we've selected based on the caller. So notice this is filter 2 and this is filter 1. So I want to extract the number. All I need to do is remove the word filter from the application caller. So how do we do that? Filter number equals replace application caller is the name of the shape that called it. Application dot caller, and then what are we going to be replacing? I'm replacing the word filter with nothing. That's gonna leave only the number. Now that we have that, it's very, very simple. Once we have it, we know it. So dot range B4, I can set B4 to be equal to our filter number equals the filter number. So what does that mean? I'm just going to put whatever filter number that we've selected filter number, I'm going to put that right in B4. So that's all we're doing there. Set the selected filter number. Helps us keep track of it. Now that we have that in B4, now what I want to do is I want to take basically whatever is here in the row here and put it in here. Whatever is in here and put it here, and whatever is here and put it here. That's all I need to do is just those 3 lines of code. So we can do that with dot range h2 of value is going to be equal to dot range b and the filter number plus 6 dot value. So that's going to be about, our filter number is going to be, let's say 1. So that means it's going to be row 7, which is our first position. So that's going to be our filter field. What else do I have to do? Dot I2, right? I2, we can just copy this and then make the adjustments accordingly. In this case, I2 is going to be equal to, coming from column C, and that is going to be our filter type. And the last one would be our value, filter value, and that is going to be going into J2, and it's going to be coming from column D. There we go. So now we've got that. Let's line these up accordingly. So we've got all of our information back into our list. What else do we need to do? I need to take J2 and set the format. Now what you want to do is I want to set the format. I want to set this format and I want to set this format, at least J2 to set the format. So why don't we do that? Let's update the format. Dot range J2 dot number format equals dot range D2 is located. D2 is where our format's located. D2 value. That's going to set our number format for D2, just in case, because it gets changed every time, right? It's going to be changed. So we want to change it based on whatever's, if it's a date or a number or text, we want to change that number format. Now I also want to set B1 dot range B1 dot value. I want to know B1. I want to set that row there. Make sure that top left cell row, I want to know what row. Did it come from 4 or did it come from 3? I want to know what row it came from so that I know where to place it back again. Okay, so we can do that with this line of code. Dot run b value equals dot shapes application dot caller, and what I want to know is the top left cell. Top left cell, where did it come of the row? What is the row where it came from? I want to place that row right there. Okay, Next up, I want to then hide the add filter button and show. So these two buttons are going to be reversed. So this time we're going to be updating it. So the add filter is going to be false. We're going to hide the add filter, and I'm going to show the update button. Show. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's all I need to do with the update. Now we've already, remember, every time we add a new button, we assign the macro update filter, right? So if we look here, you see this is our add filter. We've assigned the macro called load filter. Great. Okay, we just need to rename this, not update. This should be load filter, right? That's the load filter. So, all right, now that we've loaded, so this is what happens. Load filter. This is the macro that's run every time. Remember, when we add a brand new button, add a filter, we create a shape, and this is the macro that gets assigned, load filter. So now that we click on that, every time we click, you see, we just clicked on that because the macro was already assigned. It loads it. But what if I load this one? Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Now when we click on it, what about if I close this? We have to assign remove. Now all we need to do is add one more macro called remove filter. Very, very simple. So let's do that right now. Let's just scroll down. Loading filter works great. We can click on the update filter. Let's check that. Update filter. Right click on this button. Assign the macro and click update filter. Click OK. So let's just check to see if there's any errors. Fix this name, filter 3. That's obviously, all right, this should be B4, right? We need to make sure that's updated. B4 handles our updated filter. So let's reset that. B4, right? That's selected filter 2. That's the one we want. So click update. And again, when we're inside the width, we always want to add the sheet name. Sometimes I forget sheet 1. We're focused on that because we're inside the sheet name. Let's run that. Okay, and then the difference hidden here, this is just filter row. We're not adding the filter row. Copy that over. So we don't need that. Filter row and then the filter row. It's just a filter row, right? We define the filter row. Let's define that. Filter row is going to be equal to the filter number plus 6. That's going to be our selected filter row. All right, good. That looks good. Now we're making progress. Perfect. Okay, good. No more issues there. All right, and then good. All right, let's just change this to a date and then we'll click update. Let's try January 1st and click update the filter. All right, now it includes those dates. That's what I want. So we select on a filter and let's click update filter, and then we want to add, let's add a brand new filter. We'll add, let's just say last name contains, and then we'll just do DUN, should only return 1. Add that filter. Good, that's what we want. When we remove that filter, we still have to create a macro to remove that filter. So let's create the macro called remove filter right now. Okay, let's scroll down here and then we'll call it sub remove filter. And that's just a little bit of a macro. So let's go ahead and write that right now with sheet 1. Filter number, of course, is going to be equal to the application color again. So we do that same thing here, right? No difference. The filter number is going to be just right here. All we do is copy this because it's going to be the same. We want to assign the filter number to the application color, right? That's going to get us our filter number because I want to know which one when we call it. But this time it's going to be not filter, but it's going to be clear, right? Because that's the one that's going to be removing the filter number. And we're going to want to know the dot shapes application, because we're clearing dot color, that's the name, dot delete, because I'm going to delete the clear button, dot delete, right? We can delete it, delete clear button. We don't need that filter, we're removing it. What else? I want to know the shape, the filter shape. We can remove that too. I want to remove these two shapes. When I close it, I want to remove this shape here and I want to remove this shape here. So one is the filter 3 and one is the clear 3. So I want to remove both of those. So the next line of code, dot shapes clear and the filter number and the filter number dot delete. Now it's going to delete that. We don't need that. Delete filter shape. Okay, so now that both of those shapes are gone, we want to clear out dot range A. Right, we clear out and the filter number plus 6 all the way through and colon D, and again the filter number plus 6 dot clear contents. And what's that going to do? It's going to clear the filter details. inside that, we're going to clear those filter details right here all the way. When we're clearing the filter, I want to clear all this information all the way from A to D. We know the filter, if the filter number is 1, it's going to be 1 plus 6, right? So it's 7. So we're just going to clear out these. That's all I need to do. So that's done. So we've now cleared out the filter details. What else do I need to do? Well, I need to also update sheet 2 and clear it out there as well. So how can we do that? Sheet 2.cells 2, right? Row 2, column, what is the column? 14 plus the filter number. I'm going to clear that out. Dot clear contents, clear criteria header. Once we clear the criteria header, we also need to clear the criteria itself, and that's going to be in simple, same thing, but in this case it's going to be row 3. Clear criteria value. Okay, so now we've cleared out both of those in the data. Now we're ready to run our advanced filter. Again, we can just run this macro right here, all the way up here. Copy this advanced filter and run the macro one more time. So there we go. That'll run our advanced filter. So once let's put some notes on that. Run advanced filter, although it's pretty clear. Okay, next up, I want to update the button set. Here, this button set, once we've cleared it out, I want to make sure that the update button is visible and the add is hidden. So we can do that with this line of code right here. Actually, what we want to do is we want the add to be visible once we removed them, and we want to make sure that the update is invisible. So that's all we need to do with that code. All right, let's take a look at that. Once we remove the filter, we'll clean this up a little bit. And now let's go back into the remove filter. Macro's already been assigned. So let's say I want to remove this, close that out, debug that. We just need to do the filter. Obviously we've already removed the clear. So this is the filter. I want to do that filter, right? And that's the one we want to delete. Okay, that looks good. Now we're done. So now I also really want to clear out these. Once we've removed it, I want to make sure that's clear too. H2 through J2, we should also clear that out too. So again, we've cleared it up here. All I want to do is copy this and just remove any details that were inside that filter as well. Okay, so good. I like that. Now let's clear out this filter. That looks good too. And now let's clear out this filter. Okay, but once we clear out a filter, I want to make sure that update button is hidden, and I want to make sure the add new. That's important. Once we clear out, let me make sure that. So go back into down here. Again, the add filter should be, this is not wrong. Update, right? Update should be, this should be C true. We want to show the add, and we want to hide the update button once we delete it. So let's just, we've got those reverse. False. Details are right. Okay, that's what I want. Here, let's just comment that out. Okay, good. So when we remove a filter, let's add it and try it again. So now let's go ahead and, so I don't want update, right? So, all right, very good. All right, let's just comment this out, run that macro just so we can update the shapes accordingly, and then we'll uncomment this out. That will get us our add filter, which is really what I want. So now let's try it. Total sales is greater than, let's just say 1500, because I want to add as a brand new filter. Adding a filter, good. So when I remove this filter, we want the add to be displayed. That's really what I want. Let's line these up accordingly, align them in the middle, and then bring them up a little bit. Okay, good. That's what I want to see. So let's add multiple filters. Then we have just one more macro to write. Very, very simple. And that is going to be the clear filters. I want to clear them all. Does not equal, let's just say Zorita. So we want to add a filter, any name that does not equal Zorita. Perfect, that one's gone. Okay, let's add another filter. Let's say last name is going to be does not equal, and then let's say last name contains, and then just do AN. Let's just do AN so we can get multiple, and then add that filter. All right, that looks good. All of them contain, last name contains the word AN. I like that. This is a really nice. All we have to do is run one more, which is the clear filter. So let's get that done right now, and then I'll let you go after this extended training. Let's move on. So sub clear filters. All we need to do again is sheet 2, we're focused on the data, dot range. O2, I'm going to clear out all the criteria for sure. We don't need that. O2 through V3 dot clear content. So what is that? Contents. Okay, so basically what I want to do is I want to clear out any criteria on the data sheet, and that's going to be started here O2 all the way through V. Just want to clear anything out there. Notice that our criteria has been here, criteria, clearing all those out. So we do that. That clears out all our criteria. Now I want to know the last data row. Again, we've already defined that up here. Let's just update that on our advanced filter because we have that here. I want to clear, just bring it all over. So in our run our advanced filter, we have our last data row. It's going to be the same as this, so we can just copy this, place that right down here. Now we have our last data row. We can focus on with sheet one. With sheet one, first thing I want to do is determine the last filter row because I need to loop through those. The last filter row is going to be equal to dot range what's in B3. That plus 5. Why is that important? Plus 5. Why is that important? Because I need to loop through all of these filters and I need to clear any of them out. So if I know, or in this case, our last filter row is 8, right? So our next filter is B3. So if we add 3, 8 is what I'm focused on. I want 8. I want to know that last row. I need to go from 7 to 8. I need to clear everything out. And I need to clear all these items out. Clear everything out, all of our filters. So we can do that. This is our last filter row. We have that set up. Once we have our last filter row, if the last filter row is equal to 6, then go to no filters. And then just put no filters down here. Okay, so we have that set just in case there are no filters. Then we can run a loop. For filter row is going to be equal to 7 to the last filter row. We're going to create a loop. Next filter row, close our loop. So what are we going to do inside this loop? First, I want to set the filter number. I want to know what filter number that's located in column A. Filter number is equal to whatever's in dot range A. Remember, A holds that filter number, and the filter row. That is going to be our filter number. Filter number. We need that filter number so that we can remove any of the shapes that we have associated with that filter. So we can do that with this. We have on. I'm going to write on air resume next because just in case those for some reason the user has deleted them or they're not here, we don't want it to bug out. So dot shapes filter and the filter number dot delete, deleting that one and also the clear. So again, we're going to do the same thing with clear, but we're just going to change the text to clear. So we can copy this, paste that in there, and then just use the word clear. So we're going to clear out the button. So we need that. Once we have that, we can do on air go to 0, on air go to 0. That's going to, just in case there were any missing buttons, that'll help. And then we can do the next filter row. So that's our loop. That's going to clear out everything we needed. Once we've cleared out every single clear shape or every single filter shape, we can then clear any existing data. So now I can take this and I can just basically all the way from A7 all the way to D and down, clear all the filters out right away. So we can do that with this. Dot range A7 through N. Why do we want N? In fact, I can clear all this all the way over to N, clear everything out. So we can use the N, clear it all out. We can go all the way to column N. N, in this case, a large row, 99999 dot clear content. It's going to clear all the values out, going to clear all of our filters and our value. Clear existing data. Okay. Next up, what do I want to do? I want to just copy over all the data. Now I know the last row of the data, so all I'm going to do is take this last row of all of our original data and bring it all the way over into our filters right here and bring it all the way back into our results here. But we're going to start out with the source data because there's no criteria, there's no results. We can use the source data. So we can do that with this line of code. Dot range G7, that's our starting point, through N and the last data row plus 3. Remember, why are we adding 3? Because our results start on 7 and our original data starts on 4, so we must add value. Equals sheet 2, our original data, dot range, where's our original data? Located in A4 through H and the last data row, dot value. This is going to copy over all original data. Okay, so once we have all original data, I want to clear whatever's in H2. Again, I want to go through this and clear out anything, and I want to update the button set. We can just copy that over. and button that. So we want to make sure the ad is visible. We want to hide the update, which is correct, and clear out those. Okay, so now we've done that, that's pretty much it. Let's just check our code here, save our work always, right click, this is a little bit too high here, bring that down a little bit, right click the group itself and assign the macro, assign macro, and then we're going to call this clear filters. Okay, so let's see how we do. Clear the filter, fix this last filter row, filter, okay, that's better. And then the filter number again, B and then B, adding the B's on, continue on. Okay, that looks good. Now we've got it out. Perfect, look at that. That's good. All right, let's just take a look at things here. And we'll add in a company name. Let's just say contains the word A, add that filter in, and then we can add in a total sales of, let's say, greater than $1,000, and then add that filter. And let's go ahead and take a look, and we can add a started on, adding maybe is on or after. We can put let's say 6-1, add that filter in, that's going to filter in, good. Add in additional filter, let's put in even more filters. Let's say a country, and I want a country that contains, let's say, the word letter A, and add that filter in. Wow, we're doing really good. Let's even add an additional country filter in. Let's go down to the bottom row, and now I only want to filter on countries for the United States. So I want to be equals United States, and add that filter in and go to the bottom row. Perfect. Now we've got an amazing filter. Thanks for sticking with me on this long training. If you like these workbooks, please subscribe, and don't forget to pick up 150 workbooks for just $56. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.